This is Talkback with Peter Christian and John King. 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309.
This is Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290 and now 101.5 FM.
Newstalk KGVO,
Missoula's news and weather station.
Hey, welcome everybody. It's the Thursday edition of Talkback. This foggy morning. First half hour is sponsored by Bitterroot Motors, where they've been doing it right for more than 42 years now. Office Solutions and Services, locally owned with solutions for every office, and by the Mustard Seed Restaurant.
The views and opinions expressed on Talkback are not those of the staff, management, or advertisers.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages. I was perusing Netflix last night, and I saw The Greatest Show on Earth. Charlton Heston and Betty Hutton and Jimmy Stewart and all sorts of good stuff. And they had a ringmaster with the red jacket and the big tall hat and everything. And he would say, "Ladies and gentlemen and children of all ages, welcome to the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. In the center ring, the fabulous John King," or something like that. I don't know.
Something tells me he probably never said that.
Yeah, anyway. So we learned some information this morning, some good reporting by the Missoulian this morning. My friend Catherine Hockey, she has reported that former undersheriff and the gentleman who ran against T.J. McDermott with the write-in campaign has resigned from the Missoula County Sheriff's Office. Big, long story, but the gist of it is he did not return any calls for comment from the Missoulian when they were looking into the story, and neither did Sheriff McDermott choose to make any comment about the resignation. It's personnel matter. Ordinarily, when in my dealings with the Sheriff's Office, if there are personnel matters, they simply refuse to comment because that's against their policy.
Right.
So this is the same with the school district. If there's a personnel matter going on, they just...
But that doesn't mean Josh can't call us in this morning and tell us what's going on.
We have. I have given an invitation for the Sheriff McDermott to call, and you have given an invitation for former Undersheriff Josh Clark to call. He's no longer an employee at the Sheriff's Office. If he'd like to call, that'd be great. If not, we certainly respect his privacy.
That number for Josh, Sheriff McDermott, or just the general public is 721-1290. Feel free to use that whenever you need
in case you're wondering. And if you have any comments on this, if this is something of interest to you, if perhaps you're surprised to read about it this morning in the paper or hear about it, you want to give us a call, talk about it, that's fine. This is a talk show. We'd love to do that. It's definitely has been at the top of the news for the last several months. Yeah. The rather contentious relationship there at the Sheriff's Department through the election, and then of course we knew what happened during the Democratic primary when they changed the rules, and there's all the various dynamics that went into that election, and then after the primary, Under Sheriff Clark decided to go ahead and write a very aggressive and vigorous write-in campaign, had lots of supporters there, and he lost the election, the general election, and so T.J. McDermott took office January 1st. He has selected his undersheriff and his staff. It's all set now. The only thing they don't have at the sheriff's office right now is a public information officer. And Paige Pavallone, of course, Jason Johnson was the first. And then Paige Pavallone became the public information officer. Did a spectacular job. And but she has now been moved back to patrol, and they are, I've understood, in the county website, there is a listing for a civilian public information officer.
I got an email on that, whether or not I wanted it, and I looked at it, and it looked not job for me. Okay. Not the job for John.
Why not, John?
I don't know. Okay. Well, first of all, I don't know. Pay didn't seem that great.
Okay.
I'm sure it comes with all kinds of supplements and benefits and stuff like that. Yeah. So I didn't look that deeply into it.
Okay.
But, every time you see a job opportunity, I'm the kind of guy that's willing to make big changes in my life.
I've
done it like 7 times.
You're a man who takes big risks.
That's right. So anyway, I was like, I'll consider it for about 5 minutes. It didn't take 5 minutes.
It would be an interesting job.
I thought about it. Basically, you got to tell people about all the horrible stuff in town all the day. I'm sure there's opportunities for levity, but at the same time, it certainly wouldn't compare to this job.
Well, the thing I appreciated about the way that the two public information officers, both Jason and Paige, did their work is they utilized a lot of social media with Facebook, things like that, Twitter.
Which is very cool.
In getting information, and especially when there were breaking news stories out that dealt directly with the Sheriff's Department, you could depend on those individuals having information out that was timely and accurate, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, I certainly did too. I definitely appreciate the job, but also they wanted some kind of law enforcement experience, which I have been pulled over for having a taillight out, but that's the extent of my law enforcement experience.
Well, my law enforcement experience is whenever I see law enforcement folks eating in a restaurant, I sit as close as I can to their table because I feel really safe. Nobody's going to mess with me while I got a bunch of cops or sheriff's deputies eating in the next table. You know what I mean? So anyway.
Well, you're right.
So
anyway,
but the lines are open.
I wanted to clear the air. I have a couple things I wanted to bring up real quick. Mark Andrus, the gentleman or the individual that was apprehended as a suspect in that suitcase dismemberment.
He was apprehended. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was.
They arrested him on Saturday.
Oh, they did. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Anyway, they released him, so he's back. The attorney said that they didn't have enough evidence against him.
All right.
Despite the photos and videos. So I don't know. So there's that end of things. Also, I have a special request from my listening audience.
All right.
It's kind of awkward, but this is the way that I communicate to you, and oftentimes you can communicate to me. I don't have a lot of people's phone numbers or emails, but I had a really wonderful lady call me one day about the Devil's Brigade,
right,
and gave me a contact number for a very awesome talkback show that I pursued. And I called that number, and I got in touch with the gentleman whose name I have forgotten. I apologize. And I never heard anything back. We were all ready to go. We were going to do a talkback show and maybe a news interview. And this was all up in the run-up to, I believe, on the 3rd was when they handed out the Medal of Honor, or not the Medal of Honor, but
Medal of Freedom.
Thank you, the Medal of Freedom to the Devil's Brigade members, which were stationed here at Fort Harrison in Montana.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard back, and I would really love a call back. If you can give me that contact number again, mysterious person in Missoula whose name I forgot, I would love to do that show on Talkback.
This is what you can do in small town radio.
Right,
okay,
right.
Rush Limbaugh couldn't do this.
Would someone go knock on Bob's door and tell him to keep it down?
Anyway, G. Anderson is waiting to make a quick comment, but we have to take a break. Sorry, G. If you'll hang on just a minute, we will be right back after this timeout. And by the way, if you haven't seen The Devil's Brigade, I understand. I just looked it up. Starring William Holden, Cliff Robertson, Vince Edwards, Claude Akins, etc., etc. It's a great movie, and it's got great reviews, and much of it filmed right there in Helena. Back in the day, back in the 60s.
If I ever have a Hollywood baby, I'm going to name it etc.
Etc., etc. Okay, we're going to come right back.
Meet the common cold.
Hey, who you calling common?
There's nothing you can do to avoid it, right?
I'm awfully hard to ignore.
What if we told you there is a way to stack the deck in your favor?
Well, I wouldn't want that to get out.
Drop by Simply Vitamins and Back to Nature today and talk to our knowledgeable staff about what you can do to stay healthy.
You're getting rid of me? But I like it here. Hey, where will I go?
Simply Vitamins and Back to Nature have merged to serve you better. Come see us at our new location at 2400 Brook Street or call 549-1333.
Hi, it's Denny Bedard for Decker Truck Line. Have you ever driven for a company that really treats its drivers like the big part of the team they are? Have you had a top-end benefit package with a matching 401k? Have you ever worked for a company that seriously invests in your training and growth as a driver? Well, maybe it's time to drive Decker. In just 4 years, they've grown to 200 drivers. In Missoula for the long haul. See for yourself at 8350 Highway 10 West or online. DeckerTruckline/terminal/Missoula.
This Valentine's Day, send your sweetheart the gift that shines above all others. Name a star after them. I'm Rocky Moselle with International Star Registry. For $54 and a call to 800-282-3333 or visit starregistry.com, we will name a star after your sweetheart and send a beautiful gift package. The new star name will be recorded in book form in the U.S. Copyright Office. Call the Star Registry, 800-282-3333 or visit starregistry.com for this year's hottest Valentine's Day gift.
Dentist office, may I help you?
Hi, I'd like to cancel my teeth whitening appointment.
May I ask why?
I found a teeth whitener that works in 5 minutes that I can do from home. It's called Power Swabs.
Hi, I'm John Greenhut, and if you want to whiten your teeth 2 shades in 5 minutes and 6 shades in 7 days, then try Power Swabs. Just swab your teeth and you're done. Try Power Swabs risk-free by calling 1-800-663-1502. That's 1-800-663-1502. 1-800-663-1502.
It's cold outside. The sun sets early, and the winter blues are settling in. So think warm summer nights, cold draft beers, and great country music as the 8th annual Headwaters Country Jam with headliners Clint Black and Trace Atkins is only a few months away.
Thanks for joining us on this foggy Thursday edition of Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. Let's get right to the phone, and I want to say thank you to G. Anderson for holding so patiently. G, you are on. Go ahead, please, sir.
Good morning, gentlemen. Just one quick comment.
Surely.
Coming from a law enforcement family, growing up in the 60s in South Central Los Angeles, if I were to use the word cop, fuzz, pig, I would end up upside down bleeding.
Oh, boy.
My police officer father.
Okay.
And so it's just one of those things that whenever I hear it in our media, it makes my teeth grind because I know that when I said that to my father that I knew I was going to get hurt.
Well, I'm glad you told me. The cop actually is a British term.
It is. It's
constable on patrol. So
it's for their buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he did not approve.
Okay, well, that's good. I appreciate that. And if there are police officers who are offended by that, then let us know, and we'll try to adjust that.
Oh no, it was just humorous, but I know a lot of people who are in law enforcement who says, I am a police officer. And so you were talking about being pulled over, and that's what that's triggered it. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thanks, G.
Bye.
Appreciate the call. Always good to get friendly advice from folks. We appreciate that.
That's right. Oh, hey, I got hot news for Lorna. She'll like this.
My beloved spousal unit.
Your spousal unit.
What?
101011. So
the recipe for monster cookies is encased deep within my memory bags. Okay, go ahead.
So I know she's a big fan of Downton Abbey, right?
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
So apparently an Illinois congressman has had his office done up to look like what's called the Red Room in Downton Abbey.
You have got to be kidding.
Which is fancy schmancy, right? Okay. This is like like literally almost a feudal lord, growing up in England. And anyway, so this estate has all these big fancy rooms. It's kind of Victorian area looking stuff in there. And so this congressman had this all done up. And
at his own expense, I hope.
Well, no, it was quote unquote free. Maybe similar to the discount the president got on his house.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
So anyway, now he's getting pursued because the amount of gift that you can give to a politician cannot exceed $100.
Oh boy!
And the room is opulent. So. Thought I'd throw that out there. You might
perhaps it is so that he could have high-level meetings with various persons who are of upper estate, and perhaps that he could have those upper-level discussions in a manner in which they would be accustomed, with tea and servants and lackeys, that sort of thing.
So it's Representative Aaron Schock.
Aaron Schock. Well, there you go. Sir Aaron Schock.
Shocking.
Shocking. Thank you very much. I personally, my wife dragged me kicking and screaming into watching Downton Abbey, and now, of course, I'm as hooked as everybody else is. My wife is convinced, that Mary is going to end up with Tom, the former chauffeur.
Oh.
She and her sister are both convinced that they're setting things up so that eventually Mary, who can't figure out who she loves, and Tom, who lost his wife, who was Mary's sister, remember, had a little baby daughter, and she died in childbirth, And he's the former chauffeur and the socialist, and that those two somehow, from all these different worlds, are going to come together.
I think she's got to. I didn't see it, but if you read enough of these Brit lit, chick lit stories, I had a Victorian literature.
Chick lit stories?
Brit lit, and then I followed that by chick lit.
Okay,
but
sorry.
If you read Jane Eyre and all these things, eventually you come to love the person you hate. That's the one key ingredient. And
that's what happened in
think
Pride
about
and Prejudice,
Mr. Darcy and all that jazz, right?
Yeah,
So this theory by your wife, I think, is excellent. So I'm not 100% sure, but I think we've lost a lot of people that don't follow the show.
What the heck are they talking about?
Let's get back on track right here.
Okay.
NBC host Brian Williams,
right.
Pretty popular guy, one of the major anchors in American media, has come forward admitting that he has lied. I have in this clip two segments, one in which he's on his nightly news show explaining, I think for the first time, a case in which he says his helicopter was hit by an RPG while he was covering events in Iraq.
Right.
Then second, he's I don't tell you in the cut. It just cuts to him being with David Letterman, and then it at the end you'll hear the recent statement where he kind of corrects his quote-unquote mistake from the past. But what I've noticed is really interesting. He's not the first guy that covered Iraq and lied about it.
Right.
So all of these media people who were upset about lies going into Iraq went over to Iraq and then lied about what they did there. It's just an interesting place. I don't know if you can go to Iraq without telling a lie. Maybe that's what you need to have on your passport or something.
Let's check this out.
The story actually started with a terrible moment a dozen years back during the invasion of Iraq, when the helicopter we were traveling in was forced down after being hit by an RPG. Our traveling NBC News team was rescued, surrounded, and kept alive by an armored mechanized platoon from the U.S. Army 3rd Infantry. In Iraq, we were going to drop some bridge portions across the Euphrates so the 3rd Infantry could cross on them. Two of our 4 helicopters were hit by ground fire, including the one I was in.
No kidding.
RPG and AK-47.
What altitude were you hit at?
We were only at 100 feet doing 100 forward knots because we had these massive pieces of bridge beneath us on slings.
What happens the minute everybody realizes you've been hit?
We figure out how to land safely, and we did. In an effort to honor and thank a veteran who protected me and so many others after a ground fire incident in the desert during the Iraq War invasion, I made a mistake in recalling the events of 12 years ago. It did not take long to hear from some brave men and women in the air crews who were also in that desert. I want to apologize. I said I was traveling in an aircraft that was hit by RPG fire. I was instead in a following aircraft. We all landed after the ground fire incident and spent 2 harrowing nights in a sandstorm in the Iraq desert. This was a bungled attempt by me to thank one special veteran and, by extension, our brave military men and women, veterans everywhere, those who have served while I did not. I hope they know they have my greatest respect and also now my apology.
Well, that was actually very graciously put.
I think it was great that he came forward.
Yes.
I don't know what led to it. He said that he was called out by members of the military that were with him.
And members of the military are good at doing that. And good for them. They should be.
Do you buy that it was a mistake multiple times? This is not just one time he told the story. Now, honestly, I can understand. You get in the heat of the moment, you're talking.
Right.
You got to hit a break. And
right.
A lot of people may not realize that it's not just like you're having a conversation. When you're behind the microphone, oftentimes you're running the show or people are talking into your ear.
Right.
Or you're hitting a button. Now, obviously, this is radio, so it's a little bit different. I'm sure it's so easy on TV, but I'm just joking, TV people. So I could give him once, but to do it multiple times, the same story, I don't know. Sounds like you're covering your bases. Maybe you made a mistake the first time, but the second time?
Yeah, we're going to come right back. We've got lots more to come, and at 8:30, it's Mike Fierberg. We'll be talking about Medicare and Medicaid services. Thank you. We'll be right back in just a moment. Hey, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. That's John King. I'm Peter Christian, and we have a caller, which is nice because it's a talk show. Hey, Jerry, how you doing?
Good morning.
Hey, what's on your mind, sir?
That's about your story. Would you say that was Brian Williams?
Yes, sir. But from NBC.
Yeah. Do you guys remember when Hillary was running and she said that they got off the helicopter under fire and bullets were flying all around, and they were running and ducking, and they showed the video of it, and she got off the helicopter, and they were there presenting her flowers. And
right.
You remember that one?
Well, they were bullet-shaped flowers.
I mean, lying for a Democrat is a resume enhancement, I think.
And they had very sharp edges.
You know, I gotta apologize to Mike, because Mike called right before you, and I didn't give his word in, but partly because I didn't even get the reference. But he said that he just realized who Hillary's running mate is going to be. So now that I can connect the dots here, that joke makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Can I get one more little bit of advice to John?
Surely.
John, how old is your little one?
Well, I have 3 of them. I have a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
Oh, well, from your story yesterday morning, take my advice. It's going to happen again. But you have to remember this phrase. So, look, it's your turn.
It's your turn. Okay.
All right. Thanks for the call. Okay, so are you supposed to turn to your wife and say, "It's your turn"?
I might say that, but I do not want to start nuclear war. Look, my wife has a lot of things that she could do to me that would make my life really, really horrible. So I'm going to play with this one with kid gloves.
Just get up and change the baby's diaper. Just do it.
Do the work.
Just do the Nike thing. Just do it.
Yeah.
So,
anyway. My wife is great. I mean, she's a beautiful, beautiful person.
She's a lovely lady, by the way.
There are some times, though, that you do not want to mess with my wife. And those include when she is sleeping or when she is sick. So,
and I imagine when she's trying to study for her NCLEX and all the different things that nurses do.
She's not even that bad then.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's pretty cool.
So sick and sleeping.
Sick
don't
and
bother
sleepy,
Ruth. Okay.
Leave it alone.
Gotcha. All right.
I wish there was a good rhyme, like red on yellow, kill a fellow.
Wow, that's
head
weird.
on pillow, kill a fellow.
All right, enough already. Hey, listen, we had a story this morning. Actually, yesterday, I had a chance to visit with Gary Marbut, who, of course, president of the Montana Shooting Sports Association. You may not have heard this, but the state Senate endorsed a bill yesterday by a narrow 1-vote margin in its first reading that would allow people to carry concealed weapons on Montana college campuses, which is something that is not allowed now. As a matter of fact, it is. If you remember the last time somebody spotted someone on the University of Montana campus walking around from their car for their dorm room, or from their dorm room to their car carrying a rifle, right? Practically the whole campus shut down, emergency alerts and police and helicopters and naval gunships and whatever. I mean, it was like the end of the world. And when he was just exercising his constitutional privilege, he's a gun owner and, all that good stuff. And it was no big deal. It was just a hunting rifle. He was taking it to his car to take it home.
Right.
And so, but anyway, so here is what our friend Gary Marbut, who is a friend of the program, by the way, he's what he said about the bill that he authored.
It declares that although the Board of Regents is given considerable authority to manage the affairs of the university system, it is given no authority whatsoever to deny people in Montana the constitutional rights that they have secured to themselves in the Constitution from government interference.
Now, he also said the bill, and because he had submitted this bill 2 years ago, and it was passed, but then it was vetoed by the governor, who was a Democrat, obviously. And anyways, he said this time the bill has some added stipulations that he says he hopes will make it more acceptable to opponents. So here are some of those stipulations.
We've allowed the university to prohibit firearms at any events where alcohol is served or where the university has authorized alcohol service. We've put in a stipulation that a person could only have a firearm locked away in a dorm room if that person had the permission of their roommate.
So anyway, the measure, which was carried by Senator Carrie Smith of Billings, passed by a vote of 25 to 24 at its first reading.
So that means it has no chance of making it through.
It passed through first reading, and if it does get the second and third reading, then it will go to the House, and it probably will pass if it gets to the House.
Oh, it'll pass through pass through the legislature, but the governor will veto it, and it won't have enough votes to override the veto. So, I mean, it happened before. Anyway. We know that it'll happen, right?
But I think it's interesting that there are groups out there that feel strongly enough about this And if you know anything about researching and writing a bill to be in the legislature, it is an exhaustive process. It's not just sitting down and writing a couple lines and said, "Wouldn't it be nice if we could do this?"
I think there's a minimum 800 pages.
Well, it is a very difficult, time-consuming process that requires a great deal of expertise to write an effective bill, especially one that's going to pass. Right?
Or you copy a bill that some other state passed and add the word Montana. Your choice. You can do it Peter's way.
Wow. Okay, but anyway.
Or the easy way.
So the people are willing to take that amount of trouble to put forth a bill that they know is probably going to be rejected by the governor. Anyway. So we're going to take a break. We've got Mike Fierberg waiting on the line from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services.
That's right.
And we're going to come right back and talk about that because there's a lot going on with that, especially here in Montana right after this. We're back. 721-1290 is our number. This is Talkback, Western Montana's only live interactive radio talk show. And one of our favorite guests, a recurring guest, been on several times on the show, is Mike Fierberg from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services in the fabulous Denver, Colorado area. Good morning. Hiya, Mike.
Good morning to you, gentlemen. It's nice to talk to you. I only wish I could be there.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah, you're missing the fog and the rain. So
well, I wouldn't miss that. But, Missoula is one of my very favorite places, and I love being able to get up there. But, the federal government being what it is and travel money being stretched as it is, it's a little hard to get on a plane and come up and see you.
Man, if only your last name were Biden, I'm sure you could make it up here.
And I'd have my own plane and could set my own schedule. Yes, sir.
Or Hillary Clinton. She might want to take you along and just dump you out at 10,000 feet and you can parachute in. But anyway.
But we digress.
Neither here nor there. Now, tell us a little bit about what you have been dealing with there, the main thrust of events that have happened. I know here in Montana, and we're in the middle of the legislature, our Democratic Governor, Steve Bullock, is pushing very, very hard to get Medicaid expansion to over 70,000 people who are eligible here in Montana, that our Republican legislature over the last two sessions has denied taking that money.
Yes, that's certainly one of the most important issues facing Montana right now. And for the rest of Montanans who would not be eligible for this expansion, but who still don't have health insurance, what we are doing is reminding people that the open enrollment period to get that health insurance is about to close. A week from Sunday, the 15th, is the end of the open enrollment. So people who don't already have health insurance from their employer or from some other government program really need to look into signing up before the 15th of February, because otherwise they could well be locked out of the health insurance market for the entire rest of the year unless they're eligible for Medicaid, or if the legislature and the governor agree on a Medicaid expansion program.
So if that were to happen, would they still be locked out until the 15th of the next, next open enrollment period?
Well, not everyone is locked out. People with life changes are allowed back in to enroll, meaning they get married, they have a kid, perhaps someone loses their job that had health insurance, or sometimes if you lose your job and didn't have health insurance and you wind up qualifying for the tax credits now that you didn't qualify for before, or people who move into Montana, or for that matter, out of Montana to another state, they can enroll without regard to the open enrollment. But for most people, February 15th, the door closes. And, unless you have one of these exceptions, you're going to find yourself unable to get health insurance for the rest of 2015. That's not a good situation. You're trying to encourage everyone to get that process started now. Don't wait till the last day or two, because human nature being what it is, the phone lines are just going to be crazy.
Oh, yeah.
The website's just going to be crazy. And can you do it the last couple of days? Yeah, you can. But it's not going to be as pleasant a consumer experience. You're going to be spending a lot more time on hold or waiting for something to load on your computer. And who wants to do that? You want to get this done.
So Mike, are we into the penalty phase now? For those who do not choose to...
Legally, we were in it in 2014.
We were, okay.
People who weren't insured at all in 2014 may have to file a form with the IRS when they file their taxes this year and pay the penalty for 2014 unless they had an exception.
Yeah, the penalty was levied but hadn't hit anybody yet until the taxes roll out, right?
Yeah, the first time you have to pay it is with the tax returns that you're filing that are due April 15th of this year for your income last year.
So I wanted to throw the phone lines open. If you have questions about Medicare and Medicaid coverage, this is the guy to talk to. He works as a spokesperson or a communications person for Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. So if you want to give him a call, you have a big question, you're concerned about changes, give us a call at 721-1290. One thing that I wanted to ask you about, Mike, I noticed that New York Times was running a story about the president's budget that included 399, I don't remember if it's millions or billions, but a lot of money was proposed to be taken out of programs that CMS runs. I was wondering, do you know if there's anything under threat? I'm sure there's probably a concern for a lot of people. If the president's willing to take money away from a system, I'm sure the Republicans are going to come and say, okay, we'll do it.
You know, I've been so busy talking to all of my friends in radio, television, and print in our 6 states over the last several days since the budget was announced that I haven't even had time to look at it. So the answer is, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, it's hard to say without knowing where the line items are going to be are proposed, and I think that's the important thing. It's a proposed budget.
Right.
I don't think any of us has lived in a year where a proposed budget from any president was enacted the way it was proposed.
Yeah, good point. So
it has nothing to do with Mr. Obama being close to the end of his term. It has to do with the checks and balances of any budget going through a legislative process, during which there are nearly always many, many very substantial changes.
Right, and often it seems the executive branch usually throws out a utopian dream, which hits the dirt pretty hard when the legislature takes hold of it.
Well, yeah, sometimes. I mean, think of just the way our government works is, it is basically a statement of, here is the policy I want to pursue, and here's how I want to spend money to do so. And regardless of the president's political party or political persuasion, regardless of the makeup of a given Congress, there are changes because policies do vary. Your mileage may vary.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we're up against a break, Mike, but I want to ask you a question, and you can chew on it through the break.
Sure.
Because I know you have the answer to it. The idea of solvency for Medicare, Medicaid, and I know you don't deal with Social Security, but they're pretty closely tied together. The idea of solvency is always come up as to whether the government is going to run out of money, and you get a letter saying, I'm so sorry, we can't provide benefits anymore, the money's gone, blah, blah, blah. I want to find out from you, from Denver, from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, just how solvent these programs are. And we're going to come right back and talk about that. And we have 2 lines open. If you have a question or comment, we'd love to hear from you, as would Mike. That's why he's on the show today, to answer your questions. We'll be right back. Let's talk back. 721-1290 is the number. I'm Peter Christian. John King, our show producers over there, and Mike Fierberg joining us from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services in Denver. Now, I asked you a question, Mike, before the break about solvency of these 2 programs. From your vast storehouse of knowledge, or is it half vast?
Mostly it's my ability to call things up on my computer, and I appreciate having the break to be able to do that.
So tell us where...
What I did was pull up the report for the trustees for both Medicare and Social Security, so that to answer that question with facts and not just kind of guesses.
Okay.
The trustees issue a report on solvency every year, and these trustees are nonpartisan. You know, they're not politically oriented. They include both Republicans and Democrats, but mostly they include really, academicians, economists, actuaries, people who play with numbers far more than we could ever want to do. Bottom line is that the most recent report, which was issued last summer, says that the trust fund for Medicare not only is improving, but has solvency now until the year 2030, which is an increase of 4 years since the previous report. Part of the reason for that is the Affordable Care Act. Part of the reason for that is lower than expected spending on hospital stays. The outlook for the Medicare Trust Fund, which basically pays for Part A Medicare is very, very good. Even if it ran out of money after 2030, then incoming money for the Medicare Trust Fund, which basically is money that comes in from your payroll taxes, would still be able to pay about 85% of all benefits after that time. Now, for Social Security, that's a very different story. Social Security has a different issue, particularly the part of the Social Security Trust Fund that handles disability claims, which have jumped very, very sharply in the last 5 years. I don't have a lot of data on Social Security because that's a separate group of trustees, but realistically, that one has some issues in terms of how long it can remain solvent. But as far as Medicare is concerned, the Medicare Trust Fund is in very, very strong financial position.
I noticed you singled out Part A.
Yes.
Does that same thing hold true for the other parts?
Well, the trust fund only handles Part A. Part B is funded in a different way. Approximately 25% of the cost of Part B is paid for by premiums that people on Medicare pay in every month. The rest of it is paid by general tax revenues. If Congress decided to stop paying those revenues into Medicare to support Part B, then that would be a problem. I can't imagine politically that is at all a feasible proposition.
Okay,
Medicare is very, very popular. Don't play with my Medicare. How many times do you see with those signs in protests?
Yeah. Well, we've got Dave on the line with a comment or a question. Dave, you're on with Mike Fierberg. Go ahead.
Yeah, good morning. I've heard that private insurance companies, health insurance companies, charge about between 5 and 12% administrative costs. What does the Medicare charge in administrative costs?
Medicare's administrative cost is lower than that, depending on the way it's computed, and there are many complex ways to compute it, Dave. But typically, I would say Medicare's overhead administrative cost is between 2 and 3%.
Okay, well, thank you. Now, Plan B is a private-run insurance. It's run by private, basically. Their charges are higher, I assume, that from Plan B to work, is insurance companies pay more or have a higher rate to pay out?
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm not really understanding your question.
As far as administrative costs go.
Is Plan B a brand name of insurance company that I'm not familiar with?
Well, it's run. Plan B is partly run by insurance companies, isn't it? Or am I mistaken there?
Isn't Plan B an abortifacient?
No, I'm thinking something different.
Yeah, to me, Plan B is a prescription medication or an over-the-counter medication.
I think he means.
I think he means
part. I think he means Part B.
Oh, Part B.
I think he does.
Part B.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Now I get it. Part B Medicare for most people is administered by us, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and allows you, the Medicare beneficiary, to go to any participating doctor or hospital in America, and that's about 99% of them. What was the rest of your question, Dave?
Well, then it's administrative, so then your administrative costs are the same as for the regular Plan A?
Well, the quote that I gave you is for the overall administrative costs compared to the overall expenditure. I don't have it broken down part by part. To be honest with you, most of what we, in terms of administration of Part B, that is to say, paying the claims from your doctor and your laboratory that does your tests or whatever it is for Part B, they're done through contractors. The contractors take the claims and pay the claims. We don't do that generally in this office. We simply oversee the contractors and handle complaints.
Okay, well, thank you.
You bet.
Thanks for the call, Dave, and we're up against a break. So, Mike, if you'll hang on the phone just a minute, we have one line open. If you want to visit with Mike Fierberg, we'll be right back. Again, one line open, 721-1290. Mike Fierberg is with us from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services in Denver, here to answer your questions today. We'll be right back. This is Talkback. 721-1290 is the number. John King's over there. I'm Peter Christian. Joining us on the phone, Mike Fierberg with the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services in Denver. Let's get the other Mike on the line. Mike, you're on with Mike. Go ahead.
Well, good morning, Mike. And this isn't the first time this happened to me, but since you're on the phone, I want to ask you about this. The wife was in an accident, and of course, they billed Medicare for everything, which was what actually wasn't paid. But I get a bill that says, you owe me $26 from a psychiatrist over in Great Falls. Mind you, I live in Missoula. You owe me $26, and he got the bill there. He billed Medicare $200 for a psychiatric evaluation of the wife that I never ordered, the daughter never ordered, the wife never ordered. He just wanted to get in on a pie of scooping money out. And as far as I know, it's just plain out and out scam. And the last time I seen this, St. Pat's billed Medicare for a biopsy, a liver biopsy, which never happened. This has gotten to the point of being ridiculous, where a psychiatrist in Great Falls can bill Medicare, get away with $100, and if he'd have minded his own business, hadn't sent me the bill for 26, I would know nothing about it. But this one really ticks me off because
I don't blame you, Mike.
I have
you
no idea who the hell the guy. I know who he is.
Mike, hold on. Go ahead, Mike Fierberg. Go ahead.
Mike, are you saying that your wife never saw the psychiatrist at all?
Well, I have no idea. I never seen him. Daughter never seen him. She was in the nursing home down here. Why would somebody order a psychiatric evaluation of my wife, who has got broken ribs, broken sternum, broken legs, and damn near cut off? Her head was still attached.
So she had no need for a psychiatrist?
Absolutely none.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, if someone suffered a large amount of physical trauma, there's psychological problems that could pop up. But it also seems to me that, Mike, your call very well could be someone trying to scam the system.
It is a scam because I was at that nursing home. It was done in the nursing home. I was at that nursing home damn near every day of the week. I was there every day of the week, pretty all day long. I never seen this mutton head.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's.
Well, here's what I would suggest, Mike. First, I would double-check with the nursing home and see if this doctor did indeed show up on their premises to do this exam. John, I think, has a point that there may be some medical indication to do so in a very traumatic accident because, well, frankly, we know that older Americans...
Okay, Mike, don't argue. Hold on. Just let's let Mike finish.
Older Americans can be prone to depression after these kind of incidents, and it may not be a scam if it actually happened. I would suggest you call the place where she was being treated and verify that the doctor from Great Falls actually showed up to do this exam. If
I didn't order that.
Wait.
Wait a minute. You hold on. Just a minute. I'm the one who is in charge of my wife's deal, not the nursing home. Let's get this straight. Everybody, you don't count. Yes, I do. This is a scam. I don't know if it's between the nursing home and this doctor. We got psychiatrists in Missoula. We don't have to go to Great Falls to get one.
It's a good point. No,
okay.
So you're saying Mike, you're in control of your wife's medical care and treatment at this point. Is that right?
Absolutely, I was. Absolutely.
So they would run through all kinds of procedures through you. Any type of blood transfusion or whatever that would be needed.
Yes,
they would ask you.
They did check with me and that. Until they decide to put her on medicine that I didn't order, and I told them to get that off of there because they had to go through me on this. This guy is a flat-out scam, and I'll tell you what, I guarantee if you want to hold this, there's a lot of people who have gotten these deals that we know better than you. No, you don't.
Okay, Mike.
Okay.
Thanks for the call.
Mike, I respect what you're saying, and I don't know the facts here, but I suggest if you believe this is a scam, we urge you, and anyone else listening who thinks that they've seen a bill for services that weren't provided or weren't indicated, to call us and report it immediately.
What's the number?
The number is easy to remember.
Go ahead.
It's 1-800-MEDICARE.
Okay.
And tell the people you want to file a complaint. We take these complaints on the phone 24 hours a day. We have no more tolerance for scams and scam artists than you do.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. And we're up against a hard break here. So if you don't mind holding, Jeff, I'm going to ask you to hang on. I know you've got an important question. If you could do that, we also have one line open. If you have a question like Mike, hey, that's great. Give us a call, 721-1290. We'll be back. Okay, we are back. Mike Fierberg joining us from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And Jeff has been waiting all the way through the break. I do not want him to wait a moment longer. Jeff, first of all, thanks for holding, sir. What's on your mind?
Well, I think the statement that overhead is 2 to 3% is extremely misrepresenting and misleading. I've been involved in this system for 3 to 4 decades, and the service is the medical, dental, psychiatric mental health, substance abuse service that's delivered. Everything else is overhead. And when you consider all of the costs at the local level from the hospitals, from the doctor's offices, from the alcohol and drug agencies, from the mental health agencies, when you consider the state Medicaid agency administrative costs, and then the federal costs, you're closer to 25 to 30% than you are to 2 to 3%. So I think we ought to be honest with everybody. It's not that maybe those administrative costs aren't necessary. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. The fraud in this system is well documented by the GAO and others, and so overhead to monitor fraud is extremely important to all of us as taxpayers, as is the cost of overhead. And that's the statement that I only wanted to make.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for calling in, Jeff. Mike, what's your take on that?
Thank you, Jeff. I think you make some very valid points. The numbers that I was referring to had to do with the cost of administering the Medicare and overseeing the Medicaid program on the federal level. I was not referring to the costs at the state level, and certainly not to the costs in private practice. I have no idea what the overhead costs are of a given doctor's office, for example. They are obviously going to be reflected in the cost to provide the services, and you're right about that. I have no quibble with that. But that said, what's the alternative? You're not going to put every doctor out of business or have that every doctor and hospital be run by the federal government now, are you? That's not really a practical solution. And the other thing that Jeff mentioned that I think is very, very valid, and is the notion of using our overhead to fight fraud. That's a perfectly valid and legitimate and worthy statement, and we agree with it. The Affordable Care Act, in fact, has actually provided us with a great deal more money and more legal tools to fight fraud. We have new task forces in about 10 cities in the country where fraud has been the most common, and they've been very, very effective. We are now able, for example, to cut off providers where we have a suspicion that they are engaging in fraud. We're able to prevent them from being paid in the first place, rather than the old-fashioned pay and chase method that the law required before the Affordable Care Act. So yeah, fraud is a real serious problem, and we take it seriously, and we are applying more resources to try to make sure that your tax money gets spent to provide health care and not line the pockets of some charlatan.
I'm really curious, after hearing Mike's call earlier, what form does the fraud usually take? And is it very common? I'm far away from this issue at this point in my life, but
in our fabulous federal world, we have a general category called improper payments, and they range from everything from a miskeyed in code from some new person in a doctor's office who will bill Medicare for a long visit rather than a short visit with one wrong keystroke, to some creep down in Miami who sets up a storefront and bills Medicare for millions of dollars in HIV infusion treatments before we can figure out that he's a crook.
Billions?
And by that time, he's closed the storefront and moved somewhere else. The most obvious blatant frauds. There are people who will, people who run these billing mill operations, we call them, will just go down to somebody in the street, and this happens in Florida and Texas probably more than anywhere else. But they'll stop somebody who's obviously Medicare eligible and say, "Ma'am, if you will simply show me your Medicare card, I don't have to touch it, I don't have to take it from you. Just show me your Medicare card, and I will give you $200 in cash." And he flashes $200 bills at him.
Wow!
And a lot of people will do it. Well, now this fraudster, once armed with a legitimate Medicare claim number from the beneficiary, and once they have scammed the system to get a provider number, can electronically bill Medicare for almost anything. At least in the old days they could.
Now, let me ask you something. If that happens, let's say my Aunt Marilyn or my Aunt Mary, whatever, is one of these people that, oh, yeah, okay, $200, sure. So I showed him the card, and the things are billed to her number. Is she then the subject of a fraud investigation, or is she? So how does that work?
No, not only is she not the subject. Well, I suppose theoretically she could be accused of the crime of providing her Medicare number fraud if she knows it's going to be fraud, that's really hard to prove. Generally, what's going to happen here is that she'll get a statement every quarter from Medicare, and it'll show all the stuff that she's gotten. If I've given her $200 to see her Medicare number, the last thing I'm going to tell her before she leaves is just ignore all the statements you get from Medicare. Just don't even worry about it.
Okay, yeah.
Unfortunately, 80 or 90% of the Medicare beneficiaries don't read their annual statement of benefits anyway.
Right.
The rest of them, up until a couple of years ago, with the statements that we sent out, were almost totally incomprehensible. Yeah. We've made them a lot easier to understand, and that's a fraud-fighting tool also. Anyone on regular A and B Medicare gets a statement every quarter of the services that were provided to them. If you read that statement and like Mike, the guy we talked to earlier in the program, says, wait a minute, this treatment never happened. I didn't get this treatment, and yet Medicare was billed $700 for a treatment I never got. Call us. Report it. It could well be fraud. It could be a mistake, but it could be fraud, and we want to know about it. So call us 24/7 at 1-800-MEDICARE to report Medicare fraud.
All right.
We take it seriously.
We're up against the break. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to make a joke about instead of filing white paper, you could have grandchildren read what's on the paper, and then then the parents would pay attention.
It'd be a good reading lesson for them, especially if it's a government form. Anyway, we're going to take a little break. We have two lines open. If you'd like to visit with Mike Fierberg, he is actually here this morning with one specific purpose, and that is to answer your questions about Medicare and Medicaid. If you've had problems with a claim, if you've had problems finding a doctor, if you had whatever.
Well, and to remind you that open enrollment ends here shortly.
Yes. So we'll be right back. Stay with us. Oh, the foggy dew continues in western Montana, but that's okay. We have clarity on the radio, my friends. Mike Fierberg joining us from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services in Denver. Now, John, you just brought up something during the break. It needs to be emphasized.
Well, yeah, Mike, as I had mentioned on our segue out, the open enrollment period ends the 15th. And Mike added, after we had to go to break during commercial time, that it's really important that people realize this because the fine is increasing this year. So tell us that side of things, if you would.
Sure. Let's make clear, this is kind of a carrot and stick proposition, if you will. The carrot is that the government will offer you very substantial tax credits to get the insurance that you really need if you're not insured now. And this is in the form of tax credits that directly reduce the cost of your premiums right from day one. But the stick for people who refuse to get insurance and can't afford it is what's called a shared responsibility payment. And the reason they call it that is because people who are uninsured but incur very, very high medical costs wind up passing those medical costs along to everybody else. We pay it in the form of higher insurance premiums. You pay it in the form of payments that come from your state and local and federal governments to hospitals for providing uncompensated care. So the shared responsibility payment on the taxes you're filing now for 2014 are fairly modest. $95 per adult, half of that for kids under 18 for your family if they were all uninsured, up to a maximum of $285, or, if larger, 1% of your adjusted gross income. But in 2015, those numbers go up a lot. They're $325 per adult, half of that for kids under 18, to a maximum of $975, wow. Or, if greater, 2% of your adjusted gross income. So you're talking about, an ordinary middle-class family making $50,000, $60,000 being socked with, at least $1,000 penalty for not having insurance. And what do they get for that penalty? Nothing. They're still uninsured.
Freedom! I'm sure would be the response.
Some people may regard that as the price of freedom, and that's certainly their privilege, but the price is going up.
All right. We got a question. Oh, sorry, Peter.
No, go ahead.
The Facebook, Lindley has kind of a position for you. Maybe she's one of these people that doesn't want to pay the fine or is willing to pay the fine. She says, does that statement that you must buy a privately offered product or be punished chill you to the bone? And please spare me the car insurance analogy, please. I don't want to have to think that my health care might be a privilege akin to me driving a vehicle.
Well, the thesis here is that everybody needs health care at one point or another. Many of us need extremely expensive health care at one point or another. The question is, who's going to pay for that health care? If you get insurance, then you pay some, and the insurance company pays most. If you are on a government program, you pay very, very little, and the government pays almost everything. But if you are able to afford private insurance, but choose not to get it, then for most people, the very high cost of health care in an emergency situation or a very serious illness or accident is going to be borne by everybody else. Like I said, your state government pays money to the hospitals for providing uncompensated care. We pay money to those hospitals for providing uncompensated care. That's not free money. That's your money. That's our money. It's tax money. And the thesis behind this is that it's not fair for people who can afford insurance not to get it, so that the money is spent by the people who incur the costs and their insurance company, which is the majority, and not by the taxpayers at large.
Okay, let's get Tyler on the line. Tyler, thanks for holding. You're on Talk Back with Mike Fierberg. Go ahead.
Hi. So a couple weeks ago, my wife and I went in to do our taxes at the H&R Block, and we're sitting there, and she's answering all the questions about her stuff. And as the preparation went on, other people came in and were getting their taxes done, and I could hear the questionnaire was asking the taxpayer, and they asked us the same thing, were you covered, did you have health care coverage for every month of last year? And if you answer no, you get a fee, you get a penalty. And there was a guy and his wife in there that didn't have health care, and they were assessed a fee. And he said, I heard the guy tell the tax guy, he goes, well, what do you mean that we had to get covered? What is this covered? And the guy told him that they needed to enroll in health care, and they had to go and get the insurance. And the guy said, well, I thought when healthcare.gov was passed, everybody had free health care. And the tax guy goes, well, did you sign up for it? And he goes, well, I didn't know we had to. I thought it was free. Everybody has free health care. And he was very upset that he was getting a fee because he didn't understand all the...
So see, he wasn't being facetious. He was actually thinking that, gosh, once healthcare.gov went online, that meant I automatically have free health care.
Yeah. And he didn't even sign up. They didn't even go to the website. They just assumed that because the law was passed and Obamacare is now the law of the land and everything's up and running now, that they were covered.
So
they were covered.
Yeah, they saw it as universal health coverage.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So what did you hear the reaction of the attendant?
Oh, they were livid that they had to pay a fee for not having health care because they thought they were covered.
No, they got health care. They shouldn't have health insurance. Right. Okay. Well, thanks, Tyler.
Thanks.
That's very strange. I tell you what, Mike, I would like you to comment on that when we come back, because I know there's a lot of misconceptions out there still, even with all the news coverage and media coverage and that sort of thing. So we're going to come right back. Charles is also on the line to visit with you, and we have one line open. Line 2 is waiting for you right now. 721-1290. We're coming right back. We never have any fun on this show. Too bad you guys aren't here during the breaks. 721-1290 is our number. Mike Fierberg joining us, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services in Denver. And we have lots of calls, so let's get right back to the phones. And
did we have a question pending that you wanted to take up before we got to the other calls, Peter, about the exemptions and the tax penalties?
You had asked him to respond to something after the break, but I didn't remember what it was. So
this was the gentleman who overheard other people at the tax prep center saying if you didn't pay, you have to pay the penalty.
Yes.
Or if you didn't have insurance. The answer is sort of yes. There is one box you check on the 1040 form if you had insurance for the whole year, but it's not true that if you don't check that box, you must pay a fee. That's not true.
Okay.
There are I count on the IRS form 19 different reasons that you can claim exemption from the fee. So it's not automatic.
As a matter of fact,
to pay the fee.
As a matter of fact, there is a gentleman here in Montana that is holding seminars, at local restaurants to show people and actually instruct people on how to take advantage of those loopholes in the Obamacare law.
Follow me. Please feel free to flee the fee.
You may call them loopholes. We call them exceptions.
Yeah.
But there are any number of reasons why someone would not have to pay the shared responsibility fee for being uninsured.
One of them is...
It doesn't necessarily follow that if you don't check the box, you must pay the fee.
Yeah. One of them is if you are in arrears on your power bill, and you're threatened to have your power cut off. Well, his recommendation is don't pay your power bill for a couple of months. Seriously, so that you can tell, oh, I'm sorry, I was having my power cut off. And they go, oh, really? Okay. Yeah. So...
Or the life event clause should be expanded.
Yeah.
Like if you have to change a diaper with one hand, I think that qualifies as a life event.
Let me
go ahead, Mike.
There is what's called a general hardship exemption, but merely having an overdue power bill is not going to be sufficient to have it granted.
Okay.
And furthermore, to get that, you cannot file it on your tax return. You must be granted an exemption in writing from the health insurance marketplace to do that. There are specific criteria, and merely having one unpaid bill does not meet it.
So are you saying
However,
we need to not pay our water bill too?
If you're facing eviction or foreclosure or something like that, then yes, you can get an exemption for that reason.
Okay, let's get Charles on the line. Charles, thanks for holding. You're on with Mike Fierberg. Go ahead, sir.
Hi there, Mike. Well, I'm glad you're really out after fraud, and I got your principle, the carrot and the stick, and one of the carrots on Obamacare, as I understood it, was that each person was supposed to get their medical expenses, their insurance, cut by $2,500. Now that hasn't happened yet, and to me that constitutes fraud. So if you agree, are you going to do something about it?
Nice try. First, your basic premise is based on a misquote. If you want to contact me, I can give you the link to the actual statement that was made. The actual statement was it would be $2,500 less than it would otherwise have been. Not that it would go down by $2,500.
Well, I will back up both of you. He has said what Mike said, but he has also phrased it in. I'm sorry. Well, no, I'm talking to Mike Fierberg.
Right, I'm sorry.
He has said what Mike Fierberg just said. I'm talking about the president here.
Right.
But he has also phrased it many different ways before. This is something that he used on the campaign, and there are many, many examples of him using this quote.
Yes.
Exactly.
All right, Charles. Thanks for the call. All right.
But I'm sure, I don't think it's fraud because a lot of times he would say the average, or he would throw out those kind of qualifiers for it. So it's not, and even if he was lying, he's a politician.
And although this doesn't really...
And the courts have consistently ruled that political free speech is the freest kind of free speech. Whether we agree with that premise or not is a whole different show.
For 2014, what was the lie of the year? The lie of the year was if you like your doctor, you can keep it. If you like your health insurance plan, you can keep it.
That was 2013.
Was it 13?
2014 was the JV team not being ISIS.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I know this. I don't know why I know this.
I just don't keep up. But let's get John on the line. John, you're on with Mike Fierberg. Go ahead, sir.
Yes. A few callers ago, I heard Mark's response that it wouldn't be fair if people that could afford health care weren't made to put in. That's not an exact quote, but did I get that approximately?
Well, it's not fair to make everybody else pay for your health care if you're not willing to pony up.
Yes, that you can sell that idea quite easily with everyone's human concept of everything should be fair. But our government's not based upon fairness. You can say that about other socialist countries, but this is a country based upon freedom. And there's nothing free about taking someone's property, that being their money, without just compensation and due process of law. And I don't feel like being made to be I don't want to be made out to be someone who is a violator of the law or put into that category of crime, whether it be misdemeanor or not, for not choosing to join the collective health care. The same thing could be said of countries historically that had a religious government, and people came here for religious freedom. Well, while everyone in the country agreed, for the most part, in those countries, that the church had everyone's good intentions in mind, and it wouldn't be fair for someone to not join the church, there were still those who said, I don't want to be part of that. I want to practice my own religion. So they came here. Well, I see this going in that direction, that while something may seem to be everyone's concept of a good thing in healthcare for everyone, I see it going in the wrong direction pretty quick when the focus is fairness and taking of people's property.
John, can I ask a quick question, John? Again, in many ways, I agree with you wholeheartedly. However, with something like health care, now I'm not talking about health insurance, I'm talking about health care, with the enormous costs of even the simplest procedure, a broken leg or a broken arm. I had a broken wrist. We're talking $17,000 for a surgery to a broken wrist. And thank God I had health insurance to help pay for that. If I had not had health insurance and couldn't afford it and gone in for emergency surgery, then you, John, and everybody else that went into that hospital for whatever reason would end up paying my bill. And I guess, Mike, am I getting that right about the sense of fairness?
That is precisely correct.
What drives those costs should be the market. And yes, you can say that even if it's left to the market, that those costs might be high. However, there are ways to fight that cost, to get it down, and that is to eliminate frivolous lawsuits and to work at, there can be cooperatives. There are plenty of cooperatives for lesser clinics that don't have to have the entire hospital facility with, all the high-tech gadgets and things, just to check people out and give them checkups and things like that. Those things don't cost an exorbitant amount of money. And the marketplace is there, I think, for low-cost health care. We're stuck in this notion that it's all expensive, and it doesn't have to all be expensive.
Yeah, John, listen, I got to let you go because we need to take a quick break, and Mike Fierberg is going to answer your question, and Sue is also on the line, and that means we have a line open. I'm sure we have some Facebook comments as well. Okay, we're going to come right back with more with Mike Fierberg here in a moment. Hey, talk back, rolling right along. Mike Fierberg joining us from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Now, did I get my explanation right with John as far as the shared?
Yeah, I think largely you did. What he doesn't want to pay in a shared responsibility fee, he's paying indirectly through his taxes and through higher insurance rates if he chooses to buy insurance.
But I can understand, Mike. I can understand the person who really takes the Constitution and their rights seriously about the federal government forcing you to purchase a product just because,
Yes. And that was litigated all the way up to and including the Supreme Court 3 years ago.
Right, I know.
And also to John's point, there are other ways of covering that cost. One simple way that you might be able to understand easily is simply charging more for the customers that have insurance and saving up a little rainy day fund for when customers come in that don't have insurance, like Peter in this mythical world where he hurt his arm and didn't have insurance.
I had insurance, but anyway, let's move along.
Hand him a roll of duct tape.
Rub a little dirt on it; it'll be fine. Sue, good morning. You're on Talkback. Hi.
Well, good morning. How are you guys this morning?
Excellent. Good to hear from you again, ma'am. What's on your mind?
Well, I just, I called in a few months ago, and I was really worried because earlier you said that that the president told a lie, saying that if you like your insurance, you can keep it. Well, he didn't really tell a lie. If you like your insurance, you can keep it. But what he didn't say is that it can go up. And that's what happened to us. Our rates doubled. But I went into a navigator and went through the whole program and found a insurance policy that was actually better than what we had, and it was less expensive than what we had, and we also got to keep our dental. So, I think what people need to do if they are confused and when they're shopping is go get some help from a navigator. I went to Toby Hansen Insurance, and Kelly helped me, and she was awesome.
Okay.
So I just wanted to throw that out there.
All right, well, thanks, Sue.
Thanks for your call, Sue.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate you bringing that up. Because for people who are listening and want some help, there's plenty of help available on the ground from someone near you. There are a couple places you can go to find them. You can go to MontanaHealthAnswers.com and find someone near you, or you can go to localhelp.healthcare.gov, and you'll just enter your zip code, and you will also find someone who's near you. Now, these are people we have trained and we have certified so that they will treat you fairly, they will give you honest, straightforward information, and they will help you enroll if you want to do that.
Okay. All right, we got a Facebook post. I'm not sure I can deliver it with the all caps emphasis that it deserves, but
oh, this sounds like a good one.
There we
Okay.
go. This is from John. He says, we are basically on a fixed income with our monies running out early in the month. The so-called, quote, affordable care, end quote, even at the lowest option, is out of our budget. And then the ridiculous $12,000 deductible easily takes a third of our yearly income. We cannot afford to get this! Exclamation points to the end of the sentence. And then we get punished because we can't. What now? Are you going to jail us? In case you haven't figured out, many people are upset over this, and the glib answers aren't making it. And there you go. So what would your response be to someone like John, who's obviously having a difficult time paying for the insurance because of his job?
To answer the question directly with regard to John's individual situation is a little difficult. I'm trying to extrapolate from what you were reading, which, I don't get to see it. I can just hear it. Right. But it sounds like they're making like $3,000 a month. If it's a couple, $3,000 a month puts them, in the place where they would certainly be able to get tax credits to help pay for the insurance. Would there be a deductible? Well, yes, there will be a deductible. There's always a deductible. It just depends on what plan you choose. You can choose a plan that costs more in premiums and has lower deductibles, or you can choose a plan that costs less in premiums and has higher deductibles. That's your call. But a couple with a $3,000 a month income, which is essentially what I am assuming to be the case here, would be expected to pay a certain percentage of that income toward the premium. Everything beyond that percentage is paid for in tax credits. It's really as simple as that.
And if you do want to read these Mike Fierberg Valentines, we have them on our Facebook page is KGVO AM. If you just go to Facebook and hit KGVO AM, you can read them.
Just note as a parenthetical note here, if the lowest possible plan they can buy costs more than 8% of their annual household income as shown on the tax return, they get an exemption and don't have to pay a fee.
Interesting. All right. Well, tell you what.
Remember we talked about the exemptions that you can just simply claim on the IRS form?
Right.
Well, if the minimum amount you'd pay for a bronze level plan, which is the cheapest plan, is more than 8% of your actual household income for the year as shown on your tax return, you get an exemption. You don't have to pay the fee.
Okay, tell you what, we'll take a quick break. Here's what I'm going to do. I want to give, because our breaks have been so long, I'm going to combine these two breaks, and when we're done, we'll be able to go all the way to the top of the hour. So, Candy, if you'll hang on, and Dennis, if you'll hang on, Mike Fierberg here to answer your questions, and also encourage you to remember about the deadline coming up on February 15th to enroll in a health insurance plan. Okay, we're back on Talkback, 721-1290. We're now clear all the way up till the top of the hour. So Mike Fierberg joining us here from Denver, from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Now, folks been waiting a very long time to visit with you. So, Candy, first of all, thanks for your patience. You're on. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to just put forth two observances of situations that have been spoke about. And one was Tyler's. And Tyler said that the people that were in there it just assumed that because it was spoken by the government, and I'm going to put government and lump it in with expert, lawyer, any person that a person may perceive to be in authority, okay? So it's not just government. At this point in time in our history, we have all been conditioned enough and the conditioning has been successful enough that we do not question any authority. And then I want to go to Peter's statement about constitutional situations. Well, first of all, I think we need to understand that the big U, United States of America, is a corporation, and we live and abide by the bylaws of that corporation and everything that it consumes. Those of us that understand freedom and liberty and right and duty live under the common law Constitution in its original form for the small U, United States of America. And so therefore, those of us that have, I'm going to say this, more enlightenment on what freedom and liberty means and right and duty means will not comply. And that's why they're upset, is we will not comply. And that's my observation. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the call. So does that mean, basically what we're hearing there is civil disobedience? Is that what you hear, Mike?
Yes, and I've heard it from many people before. That's one of the freedoms that we all have.
Yep, and I like to point out, whenever you talk about civil disobedience, people who talk about that and who are really sincere about it, and I know Candy is in many ways, are willing to pay the price for that civil disobedience. And in this case, it's a fine, right?
Yes, I respect them for that, making that choice now, knowledgeably.
Sure. All right, let's get Dennis on the line. Dennis, thanks for holding your own talk back with Mike Fierberg. Go ahead.
Okay, I have a question. In June, I will be retiring from my job. I am not 65, so I will not be getting Medicaid, but I will be getting VA insurance for me. Okay, and everybody I've talked to, I'm trying to get health insurance on my wife. Nobody will talk to me until June because my insurance will run out June 30th. So am I going to be fined for half a year?
Because your wife won't have insurance, is that it?
Right, because I can't get insurance on it because nobody will talk to me until June.
So is she uninsured right now?
No.
Oh, okay. So she has insurance until June.
Right.
All right. So, Mike, what can you tell this gentleman?
You have no problem. What will happen is when you retire in June, then you lose your employer coverage. Then you have what's called a special enrollment period, which will begin on the day that your employer provided coverage runs out. Actually, it will begin. You can enroll sooner than that once you have documents that say your coverage will run out June 30th, 2015. At that point, you can go into the marketplace and go under special changes in circumstances, and say, I've retired, I've lost my employer-provided insurance. It also covered my wife. And then you will both be eligible to enroll in a plan starting July 1st. And you may be eligible for it, since you're no longer eligible for government, you're not eligible for employer insurance, and you're not yet eligible for Medicare, you may well be eligible for tax credits based on the income of your household. And you can register and enroll for coverage for you and your wife starting July 1st, and you will pay no penalty. Even if you miss the deadline to enroll for July 1st and get coverage that begins August 1st, there is still no penalty. A brief coverage gap of less than 3 months for any given person in the family is a reason for exemption from the penalty. And you can simply claim it on your IRS form next year. It's very easy to do. But you need not worry about this. The reason that you could, if you wanted to, go into the marketplace now and buy coverage for you and your wife, but you'd not be eligible for any tax credits because you do have a health insurance from your employer. Until that ends, you can't get tax credits.
Everybody I've talked to wants to enroll me in February, and I don't need it in February.
No, they want to enroll you in February because for most people, the enrollment period ends February 15th, and then they're locked out. You, on the other hand, are not locked out because you have a life change, retirement.
You just tell them Mike said so. All right,
Call
Dennis.
the marketplace at 1-800-318-3733. 2596, 24 hours a day. They know how to handle this. It will be okay.
All right, thanks.
If they don't like it, they'll learn to fear the Fierberg.
If they don't let you enroll, you call me and I'll get it.
Wow. All right. So do we have a Facebook comment?
Yeah, we got one. This is from Matt. Matt says, I have no claimable income. That's $0 and 0 cents on a W-2. And I'm on the verge of abject poverty. However, because I have no income, I am not eligible for any subsidy of any kind. Additionally, the IRS doesn't even accept tax returns filed with 0 claimed income. That's right. They send them back to me unprocessed. So, what do you do if you're living in the 0 territory?
So, was he writing on Facebook from a computer under the bridge?
Well, there's a library, Peter.
There
it's
are
free.
libraries.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Places.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. All right. Bye.
Please.
Maybe he was under the boardwalk.
I down by the sea.
This gentleman is one of those people who's is in the gap. The law did not intend to leave him out of health care, but the practical application of the Supreme Court decision 3 years ago and the actions of the Montana legislature to date are the reason why he's in the middle of with nothing.
So he has no Medicaid, yeah.
Anyone below 100% of poverty level, which for a single person is roughly 50. I think I forgot my numbers here. No, about $11,000, almost $12,000 a year is the poverty level for a single person. If you're below that level, you're ineligible for the tax credits. But if he's a single adult, childless adult, he's also ineligible for Medicaid in Montana. The law intended for him to be eligible for Montana Medicaid, but the Supreme Court ruled that states don't have to expand, and to date, Montana has not done so. If Montana did so, he would be eligible for Medicaid. But in the current state of affairs, he unfortunately is quite correct. He's in the gap where he gets no subsidies and basically has to rely on public clinics who will give him treatment for free, or in an extreme case, go to the emergency room and get treatment for free, which then gets covered by other people, other taxpayers in one way or another. But that's the way the situation has evolved to this moment.
Okay, let's get another call on. We have about 3 minutes left in the program, so Emmett, go ahead.
Oh, thanks for taking my call. Well, this is more of an observation, and I've been listening to this fascinating discussion, but I'm in shock and awe at that one call about 15 minutes ago, the person in the line for, filing their taxes, and this guy was upset that he had to pay because he thought health care was free. Obama gave him free health care. Everyone free health care.
I got a free Obama phone. I get a free Obamacare. Yeah.
I cease to be stunned by how stupid some people can be.
Yeah, but what has happened in America is that people are not reading the paper. Do they not watch CNN or even watch the local news? How is it that people can be more extreme than Rush Limbaugh says, the low information voter? After all the information that has been out there, all the warnings, people think, well, Obamacare is free, but those Republicans want to take away my free health care because they're greedy. How ignorant can people be? What has happened to our culture? Or people are either not paying attention to the news or just glancing at something and completely misconstruing it. I don't understand what has happened, so I thought maybe you could answer that for me. I don't know.
Well, I would say people
Emmett.
have been stupid since we began, and they will continue to be stupid into the future. That's part of humanity. We happen to the culture.
Stupid is as stupid does, sir.
I mean, if you look at we're far more literate than we have been in the past, and more inclined to be able to read and stuff, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee that people will take advantages that are afforded them.
Hey, we have like a minute left, Mike. So could you give us some contact information, numbers, websites, where we can go to get more information here?
Sure, thank you. And I got to tell you, I'm kind of hurt that people still think that, because it's my job to inform Americans about what this is all about. But yes, there are people who still don't understand that you have to pay, that there's an open enrollment period that's going to end on the 15th of February, and you have to enroll by then, that there are plenty of federal financial assistance programs to reduce the cost of health insurance, and that there's loads of help in your community to get it. Please go to healthcare.gov, healthcare.gov for information and to find local help, or call us at 1-800-318-2599. 888-896, 24 hours a day. Believe me, the people on the other end of the line are used to dealing with folks who have a lot of questions and may not know very much. Don't be afraid. Please be insured. Do it by the 15th of February, and you'll have a lot of peace of mind, and you won't have to worry about paying penalties, fines, or any other such nonsense. We don't want to collect the fines. We want people to be insured. That's the object.
Mike, we got to run. Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, sir. Take care. All right, so tomorrow, John.
That's right. We'll have an accordion player in studio, maybe some extra backup music, and Trey Luck from the Friends of Irish Studies will be here as well.
You guys have a great day.